Alright guys, I promised in my last video that I was going to do a 2013 most anticipated films, a 2013 most anticipated films list, and it was kind of a pain in the ass to do before the first, so it's a couple days late, and I decided that it's really hard to make a list of 13 movies on a year that looks very, very, very promising. So I decided to add six honorable mentions, and real quick, let me shoot those bad boys off. Number one is Iron Man 3, Thor 2, Kick-Ass 2, Man of Steel, Star Trek 2. I know it has an actual name, but I don't know it, and it's too late to look it up, so it's Star Trek 2 today. And then the Evil Dead remake. All these aren't in my official list because they're all sequels, reboots, or remakes. As easy as that. And they're all really huge budgeted films, kind of like unlike all the other ones in the list. I felt that these are movies kind of everyone's going to see regardless. So why throw them in a list for movies that maybe no one knows about or aren't anticipating as much until they finally hear about them, stuff like that. So I threw those in there. The one I'm most weary about is Kick-Ass 2. I loved Kick-Ass 1, but this one I'm almost 1,000,000% positive is not going to be nearly as good, simply because it doesn't have the same people involved, and that always affects movies. You know, you look at all those sequels in the past that lose their director, they're not as good. And I mean, you can probably find a couple movies, but for the most part, they're not as good. But then again, I think there's sequels here that are going to be better than the predecessor, and that is Star Trek. I liked the first Star Trek, but I didn't think it was a masterpiece like a lot of people do. Iron Man 3, I liked Iron Man 1 a lot. But, again, Iron Man 2 is pure shit. So Iron Man 3, it reteams Shane Black and Robert Downey Jr., who did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is a fucking great movie. And then Thor 2. I love Thor 1, but I think this one could be a bit darker, and it gets rid of the Avengers thing. I think post-Avengers standalone films are going to be better than their predecessors because they already did the Avengers. So now it's just Thor. It's all it is. And then Evil Dead. I've never actually seen the original, but I want to. And from the talk of the town, this new Evil Dead is gonna be a good one. And at least I hope, and I think everyone hopes. So yeah, that's definitely in there too. But now I'm gonna stop this. Go on with my actual anticipated list. So okay, so it was a bit hard to rank them, but I think I ranked them the best possible way I could. So number 13 is this little indie flick called Adult World. It stars Emma Roberts and John Cusack. And the reason this list is in my most anticipated right now is because I'm in a big John Cusack phase. You'll see, I reviewed one of his movies a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to review two more today, actually. And I just really, really like that guy. Maybe not recently. He hasn't come out with these great performances that he had in the 90s and early 2000s, but, you know, who knows? Everyone could always come back, and this sounds kind of promising. So it's definitely the movie on my list that made it just on the tip. I can probably think of a few other movies that were right there, but just because I watched two John Cusack movies today, I think maybe it was just like, fuck it, throw it in there, you know? But yeah, it's about a girl who works at a porn store, and she's a writer, and it's an indie comedy, which is what I'm all about. And yeah, so number 13 is Adult World. Number 12 is called Asylum. It's the new Neil Blomkamp, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, film. starring Matt Damon. The last time I did, I said Ben Affleck, and I have no clue why. But yeah, it stars Matt Damon, and it's basically the next movie from the guy who did District 9, which I was a fan of. This movie's got a bigger budget, a better, a huge lead in Matt Damon, and realistically, I have no clue what it is about. And I think that is a huge. I got maybe 9 months to go, but if I continue not watching trailers I really have no clue what this movie is about, and I kind of want to go into it entirely like that. Just from the people involved and the hype that this movie has, because it was shot like 2 years ago, but the hype that it has kind of behind it right now, it's just on my list. A lot of people I know are anticipating it, and I'm right there with them. I think it could be a very good science fiction film and a huge action movie. But again, I have no clue what it's about. It's just kind of right there on my list. So yeah, that's number 12, Asylum. When I first heard about this next one, I was a bit weary because when you hear the names Steve Carell and Channing Tatum involved in a serious drama, you get a little bit weary. But after thinking about it and talking about it, Foxcatcher is my 11th most anticipated movie of 2013. Simply because it's directed by the guy who did Capote and Moneyball, and Mark Ruffalo is the supporting lead in it, and it's got a really, really dark story. And obviously, it's got a man. If it were directed by a guy who I had faith in, like Bennett, then I would be a bit weary because of the cast. But who knows at this point? It's got a late season run, right in the middle of the fall, and again, it's got talented people behind it. And I'm a huge Mark Ruffalo fan, so hopefully the story of the Foxcatcher. I read about it, and it's about a murder from a schizophrenic who's going to be played by Steve Carell of a wrestler. So it's an intriguing story, and it's got a lot of talented people behind it. So yeah, I guess it's one of those movies you can't judge a book by its cover. Even though I do really like Channing Tatum after this year, but that's a whole nother thing. My 10th most anticipated film is a movie called Her. It is directed by Spike Jonze, who, after the last, couple weeks, I've become a huge fan of. He directed Being John Malkovich and Adaptation, as well as Where the Wild Things Are, which I seen a few years ago. But he hasn't made a movie in like 4 years, and he wrote it, directed it, and it's got a fucking killer cast. Rooney Mara, Amy Adams, and Joaquin Phoenix. There's another female lead in there, but I forgot who. But yeah, it's in a science fiction, love story, comedy, weird, Spike Jonze-y. And after watching Being John Malkovich, he just really impresses me as a director. He wrote it, which the other two movies I'm a huge fan of were written by Charlie Kaufman, but still, I still have faith in him as a director, and hopefully he's a good story writer too, hopefully. So, because of the cast and the director, I'm anticipating Her a great deal. Alright, my 9th most anticipated movie is called The Bling Ring, directed by Sofia Coppola. And it has the cast is a bunch of people I really like, and that's Emma Watson and Leslie Mann's in it, and there's a few other girls. But the reason I'm anticipating this movie is because it's directed by Sofia Coppola, and I fell in love with Emma Watson this year watching Perks of Being a Wallflower. So those two things alone make me anticipate it. But I think, unlike Lost in Translation or Virgin Suicides or maybe any of her other films, this one seems to be, a little bit higher budgeted, more Hollywood-esque, and because of that, it could be risky. But when you're a talented filmmaker like herself, who knows what you could turn out greatness, so who knows. But yeah, I like the cast, and the story is about the Hollywood robberies, stealing famous people's like shit. So who knows, again, it's a lot of these are pure speculation. None of us know what's going to be a great movie next year. Actually, I do, because they're higher up in my list. But yeah, number 9 is The Bling Ring. So yeah. Okay, number 8 is called American Bullshit, which is definitely going to get its title changed. But as of now, it's called American Bullshit, and it's got an amazing cast, and I really, really like David O. Russell. But this is the one film on this list that I'm not 100% sure if it will make it, simply because it starts filming next month, February of 2013, and definitely could get it done. I mean, Tarantino's Django is filming in fucking July, so you can definitely get the movie done in time, but will they release it is the big thing. But it's got Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper, what's his name? Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner. It's got a great cast, and obviously David O. Russell's behind it, and I've been a big fan of his last 2 films. And anything with Christian Bale, Jeremy Renner, and Bradley Cooper as the 3 leads got me intrigued right then and there. So hopefully this one comes out. Fingers crossed. But as of now, I'm very, very anticipating it. And I really hope it gets that 2013 date. If not, it'll be right in my 2014 most anticipated movies. Okay, so this is one of the very few films on this list that is actually premiered at a festival. And it premiered at TIFF, not this year, or last year technically, but 2 years ago. It's a horror movie called You're Next. While I may not be the biggest fan of horror flicks, I'm a big fan of slashers. And not like the shitty ones like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6 or anything like that. I'm more Scream is probably my absolute favorite horror movie. I really like The Strangers, and this one seems right there in that category of horror films, and it's called You're Next. Premiered at TIFF 2 years ago to just tremendous reviews as a horror genre. Just some of these movies don't get good reviews, and this one got amazing ones. So that right there is a feat in itself. And because of that, I've been anticipating it for the last 2 years almost. It never got released last year, which was a total shame, but it's got a date in August this year, so I'm anticipating it a lot, and hopefully my really high expectations don't, blow it, so we'll see. Okay, so this next movie is called The Way, Way Back, and it's my 6th most anticipated movie of 2013. Because it is a indie dramedy coming of age flick, and that right there is why I'm anticipating it so much. But I think the main reason is because the storyline kind of reminds me of like Adventureland, kind of. It's about a kid who gets a job at a water park, and he falls in love, and that's really all I know about it. It comes out to Sundance this year. So it should be premiered within the next, month. And it's written by Nat Faxon and Jim Rash, who won Oscars for The Descendants. And it's got a killer cast, Sam Rockwell, Steve Carell, and a whole bunch of other people. And it's just, like I said, I love coming of age stories. And it just seems right there, right up my alley. So it may be a little high, but there's nothing wrong with having high hopes, especially when there's a lot of talented people behind this movie. And, hopefully I'm not disappointed. The reviews come out soon, so hopefully they hold up, and, I have the right to have this movie in my top 13. If not, I'm going to look like a total jackass. So, prove me wrong, guys. Seth Rogen, James Franco, Jonah Hill, Paul Rudd, Jay Baruchel, fucking everyone that's ever appeared in a Judd Apatow movie, and Emma Watson, and I'm sure 50 fucking other people are going to be in this next one. The End of the World, I think it's called. This is the End. I'm sorry. It's had like 20 different titles, but this is the End. Directed by Seth Rogen himself, who wrote it, and was originally just going to be him and Jay Birchall, but they expanded the cast to like the entire Apatow crew, and it's going to be amazing. I really, really think this is going to be just a fucking amazing comedy. And the trailer premiered the 20th, because the 21st was when we were all going to die, so they thought it'd be funny, but it opened to just, everyone said it was hilarious. So here I am fucking waiting till June to see this movie, because I'm an Apatow and Seth Rogen and everyone in this movie. I'm a fan of theirs from a comedic standpoint. So I cannot wait for this movie. Please come June. Okay, so last year I didn't anticipate Hugo for Martin Scorsese, and he just proved me wrong that I should anticipate every movie that man does, because I love everything I've ever seen from him. And Wolves of Wall Street is right there as my fourth most anticipated movie of 2013. It's his fifth reteaming with Leonardo DiCaprio. Again, I'm a fan of all their other movies they've done. This one has a great cast behind it. It's got the guy from The Artist, Jean Dujardin, I think his name is. I'm gonna fuck that up probably. Matthew McConaughey, and then it's got it's got Coach Taylor from Friday Night Lights, Kyle Chandler, and then Jonah Hill, who's hit or miss for me when it comes to dramatic acting. But it's Marty, man, and anything Marty does is going to be right up there. And so The Wolves of Wall Street is my fourth most anticipated movie of 2013. Okay, so here's where it got really difficult, because my top three are all movies I'm really, really anticipating and have been since last year. So starting off with this one, it wasn't on my list of movies because it was one of those movies I wasn't quite sure of at the time. But now it's definitely in 2013. It's going to be released this year. It is called 12 Years a Slave. It is my third most anticipated movie, simply because it is directed by Steve McQueen, who directed The Hunger and Shame. And he's a visual, brutal, honest filmmaker. And his movies they really do hold pack a punch, man. They're honest, and like I said, they're brutal. They're brutal to watch at some parts. And this one is about slavery, and because of that, it's definitely going to be a brutal film. But that's not the reason why I'm anticipating it. The cast for this movie is fucking amazing. Obviously, Michael Fassbender's proved that he is truly one of the best actors working right now. And he's, again, the lead in another Steve McQueen movie. And because of that, you gotta automatically right there anticipate this movie if you're a fan of Shame or Hunger, because he delivered Oscar-worthy performances in both, even though he was only in Hunger for a little bit. But what he did in that movie truly, it opened his career. So 12 Years a Slave has, Brad Pitt, Paul Giamatti, Paul Dano, about 5 great black actors in Hollywood. The cast is just amazing. If you don't believe me, go on Wikipedia and look at it yourself, because it's got 7 Oscar-nominated actors in it, and it's about slaves. So it's the opposite of Django Unchained, because I don't think this is going to be funny at all, but I think it's going to be a very, very, very good film, and hopefully it gets released. It will get released. So there's not a doubt about it. It was finished last year. So, yeah. 12 Years a Slave. Okay, so these next 2 movies were kind of spoiled a few days ago, but they have been... I've been anticipating them for well over a year and a half, and here they are. Number 2, Only God Forgives, starring Ryan Gosling, directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, and it is going to be a brutal, brutal movie. It's about a drug runner who is in fucking Thailand, and there's going to be a lot of blood and samurai swords and the whole 9 yards. But the reason I'm anticipating it so much is because of how big of a fan of Drive I am. And obviously I am a huge Ryan Gosling fan. But this movie is very, very... I mean, like I said, I've been anticipating it for well over a year and a half since I seen Drive. And it was announced, honestly, fucking weeks before Drive even came out. So I've been anticipating it so long. And hopefully it gets to Cannes premieres. But it's definitely coming out in 2013. Most likely in September. But, you know, the reviews should be fiddling out around May. If it does get the premiere at Cannes. But yeah... But that's my number 2, and it was higher than this next one until the reviews came out. And the next one is another Ryan Gosling film. It's my number 1 most anticipated movie. It is called The Place Behind the Pines. It premiered at TIFF 2012. Tremendous reviews. I was just fingers crossed that it would have came out in 2012, but you know, they picked it up, and I believe it's Focus that has it. And they're waiting until 2013, but it has an early date. It's the late March, so I only have to wait, you know, a little over 3 months here. But I'm fucking dying to see this movie. It had amazing buzz, you know, potentially Oscars. If not, it's got, you know, tremendous hype and great reviews and right up my alley. I loved Blue Valentine. I love Ryan Gosling as an actor, and the cast is great, and it's a generational epic crime drama, and that right there, just I don't know how you can't anticipate that. But my number 1 most anticipated film is The Place Behind the Pines, and there's a trailer online that I've been dying to watch, but like I said, I got 3 more months, so that wraps up my films. A few of them I talked about longer than others, but, you know, that's just how it goes. So leave your top 10, or top 13, or top 2, or 3, or 4. It doesn't matter. Leave your most anticipated films of this year. Do you agree with me on any? Do you disagree with me on any? Leave it down below, man. Leave a comment. Give me a sub. Tell me about your friends. I need some more subscribers because I really want to get this YouTube page going. It's a lot of time and a lot of effort, and no one's checking out my page yet, so give me a subscribe. Thanks.